Hello, my name is Martha, and I am a certified death doula who helps people in their final moments as they are crossing over to the other side. I also help people prepare their last will and their paperwork as they are making their choices and preparations for how they prefer to die. In this profession, I have really dug deep into studying more about death and dying and the lessons that death can teach us about living a better life and the magic of being alive. There are so many wonderful lessons that death can teach us. In today's episode, I want to talk a little bit about the belief that God is everything. I am you and you are me, and we are all one in the Lord, in God. This is a belief that many traditions throughout history have explored, and many books about how God is the light and the dark, and God is in all things and is the essence of being. There are a lot of so many different religious traditions that have stories about this, and we'll talk about some of those. But really just kind of wanted to start with a wonderful story that I recently heard explaining this kind of essence of God being at the source energy of all things. And it's a wonderful way to visualize it. And it's that God is the seed. And the seed that sprouts up through the earth and becomes a plant or a tree or a flower. That when you see the plant, it doesn't look like the seed, but you know that the seed is the essence of the plant. And then as the plant matures and comes to fruition, the seed reappears as the fruit of the plant and reseeds the area around it to grow more of the plant or bush or fruit that it produces. And that's a beautiful, beautiful way to visualize how God is in you, with you, by you, through you. You are the essence of God. And that God is in everything, the seed of all existence, at the seed of everything. Every person, place, or thing is seeded by the essence of God. And this is my belief, that God is the energy in the nucleus of every atom, of all things. If it has mass, and if it exists for your senses to experience through sight, touch, feel, smell, or reason, that this thing that exists is, and at the essence, is God. And I wanted to talk a little bit about this notion. It's called Pantheism. And Pantheism is a teaching that essentially it believes that God is not a separate entity from the universe, but rather is present in every part of it, making everything a manifestation of divine being. It's called pantheism. And this is what I personally believe, that God is the source essence of everything. Everything. My sweatshirt is God. The glass, the tea inside, it's all God. This plant, God. The planter, God. This camera that I'm recording the video on, God. The speaker, God. My hair, God. Everything, my glasses, God. Everything, if it has mass and is made of atoms, to me, is the source essence of God. And the key points of pantheism, I'm going to read them off to you, are that God is the universe. The entire universe, including all living things and natural phenomenon, is considered to be God, or have the essence of God. There's no distinction between God and creation. There is no separation between the creator and the created, meaning that everything is essentially a manifestation of the divine. When we stop to think about this omnipresence of God, God being in everything, omnipresent in every piece of creation. There's so many different disciplines and different theologies that express this notion. And there's also a kind of related concept, pantheism, and that's pantheism. I can't even say it. Pantheism. And it's similar to pantheism, but the idea that God is not only in everything, but also transcends the universe. God is bigger than just our universe that we live in. That's when we get into more of a theoretical discussion of quantum physics and multi-universe theory, that it's not even just this universe. God's bigger than all of that, which I also believe. And it's just a very interesting way to kind of think of the concepts of unconditional love, and that there is no separation, and that everything is created by God. Everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, the holy, and the divine, all part of God. Some of the teachings that I have studied and found this belief through, some of the teachings that come to mind, number one is the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita. I can't even say it. They call it the Gita because it's kind of hard to say. In the Bhagavad Gita, the story of Arjuna, who's talking with Krishna, who is the avatar of God, and trying to come to terms with this great war that he is about to fight his mentors and family members, and he doesn't want to fight. And Krishna is there to explain to him that death is just part of life. It's part of life. Death is part of life. And Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, I wish I could say it more eloquently, it becomes death and shows him that even if he doesn't fight, these people are still going to die, and that this is part of the natural phenomenon called life. Death is part of life. And I think maybe all know the famous quote that Oppenheimer used when he created the first nuclear bomb and saw it go off and saw the mass destruction that it could create. He quoted the Bhagavad Gita and said the famous quote, "Now I am become death, destroyer of worlds." And the Supreme Lord said, "I am mighty time, the source of destruction that comes forth to annihilate the worlds." And this is part of God. Quite often, we think of a separation, that God and death are two separate things, and that heaven and hell are two separate things. But if we think more in the pantheistic way, and bring it all the way back to the Big Bang Theory, where from one source nucleus, the Big Bang created everything, and that everything is of that seed, that source point that exploded into the universe and created everything. Everything is of that there is no separation. There is no separation between heaven and hell. There is no separation between birth and death. It is all made of God. God is all of that. We think of, the devil's over here and God's over here and they're fighting and they're two separate things. How can that be? That's impossible. If we believe that God created everything, then God also created the dark and the light. These aren't two separate things. In Taoism, they call this the Yin Yang, and it's a symbol, a circular symbol that has like a little swirly, and part of it is dark and part of it is white, and they're fit together. And within the dark, there is a tiny circle of white. And within the white side, there is a tiny circle of dark. And these are swirling together around in constant rotation and constant union. And that the dark exists to shine the light, and the light exists to enliven the dark. And these things are just so inherently interconnected. And all of it is part of God. And this pantheistic way of thinking that in Hinduism and yoga we say Nameste. I see the divine in you is the same as the divine in me. Basically, I am you, you are me. And that doesn't just stop with nice, friendly people. It doesn't just stop with people that believe the same things you believe. It doesn't just stop with what we call good and bad. When we say, I am you and you are me, or Namaste, or have the concept of the Yin Yang, this pantheistic way of thinking means everything is part of everything else. Everything is everything. And this is mind-boggling when you first kind of start coming across this concept and trying to reason it out. But what about, the bad people that are doing bad things, and the drug dealers and the child molesters and the murderers and the, liars and cheaters, and those are bad people and those bad things. And people who kill other people, that's bad. And this judgment of good and bad, light and dark, you versus me. It's separation. These two concepts are separate. You're trying to separate God. And God only created all the good stuff? Then why does bad exist? These concepts are trying to get us to think broader. God's bigger than all of this. There is a reason that the dark exists. It is to show us our light. There is a reason that the light exists. It is to imbue the darkness. There's a wonderful, beautiful image that I will post in the description of, it's an image of a lion, and it's kind of divided down, very yin yang kind of symbol. One part of the lion is a white lion, and one part of the lion is a dark black lion. And it says your light exists to teach you love and acceptance, and the dark exists to teach you your strength and divinity. And that these two things are both needed. You need resistance in order to grow. And this all kind of can be tied back to my first analogy of the seed growing through the ground and shooting up through the earth. That seed has to have that resistance to grow up through the earth. It's part of what pushes all the nutrients up through the plant so that it can grow. Without that resistance, it will not seed properly. It's kind of like when I went to Mexico a couple of years ago, and we had baby sea turtles in the ocean. Mother turtles had just laid their eggs, and the babies were coming out. And they get buried in the sand. The mother turtle digs a hole and drops her eggs. And the eggs kind of finish growing. And when they're ready, the baby turtles have to dig their way out of the egg and up through the sand. And then they have to go along the ocean to the water and fight the waves and get into the water. All that is a struggle. All that is like major struggle. But without that struggle, that's part of what helps their blood vessels and their muscles get strong so that they can swim in the ocean and swim with the waves of the ocean. If you try to take a sea turtle and help it and snatch it up and carry it to the ocean, it can't. It will die in the waves of the ocean because it has not gained the strength and the muscular and the circulatory resistance needed in that little trek up through the sand and down through the beach. And there are many perils all along the way. There are seagulls that'll come and snatch them up, and there are, animals that'll try to feast on them before they make it to the ocean. And then once they get into the ocean, there are all sorts of fish and animals in the ocean that are happy to eat a baby turtle struggling in the waves. All of that is designed to give the turtles the strength and resistance needed to make their big trek across the ocean in their lifespan. But the resistance is how we grow. It is how we gain the strength and resilience and find our inner divinity to then shine the light and be the light. And so this concept of understanding that God is all of that, the good, the bad, the ugly, the holy, and the divine. God is everything. Everything is energy. And that energy source is the source of all existence. And understanding that it's not just the fuzzy, sweet, feel-good things. God's not just fluffy. God is, as the Gita says, now I am become death, destroyer of worlds. That's God too. In another tradition, the Christian tradition, we have the Old Testament God of war, there's a lot of destruction and a lot of stoning and fighting and all that. And then the New Testament God, and more of a God of love and acceptance and the golden rule. These are both same God, two different aspects of it. In theater, they have the masks, the happy mask and the sad mask. And it's kind of two masks that are joined together. And that there's kind of like the two faces of the drama of life. And that both are needed to understand the experience of the drama. And this is another concept of the Yin Yang kind of concept of the God is everything. God is all of it. God is the good, the bad, the ugly, the holy, and the divine. And these concepts just keep showing up in so many different traditions. I studied the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And in the Tibetan Book of the Dead is a study about, it's their traditional belief of what happens in the afterlife after you die. And they call it that you go into a period of a bardo, which is a testing kind of ground before you can access enlightenment and heaven. It's kind of like what happens with the turtles now that I'm thinking about it. I'm just now putting those two things together. You have to have the struggle before you can attain enlightenment after you die. This is what Tibetan Buddhists believe. And that you go into this bardo, which is basically a series of tests. And in the tests, they teach you that there are certain stages in the bardo, and that you will encounter more and more challenging things that challenge your beliefs and that challenge, can you love here? Do you understand love? Do you understand that the scary things, the monsters and the devils and the demons are there to teach you about unconditional love? And that when you can understand that these scary things are products of your own mind, that the universe exists within you. You are the universe. I am you and you are me, and we are all God. We are this universe. We are not just part of it in it. We are the universe. We are God. We are the seed of God in all of us. And in our own mind, we have both heaven and hell. And everything is there for a lesson to teach us. The resistance is there to teach us how to shine our divine light. And in the bardo, in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the minute that you understand that any scary thing that comes to you and appears to you and challenges you with disrespect or fear, when you can acknowledge, I am you and you are me, I choose love, when you can calm yourself and understand that this is just an aspect of God challenging you, can you love this? Can you find that this is not just love, the scary thing, but can you find that this is also God, and this is basically a test? And if you can see through the illusion of the test, then you obtain liberation. you instantly go to nirvana, is the tradition of the Tibetan Book of the Dead. The statement is that whatever you see, no matter how strange and terrifying, remember, above all, that it comes from within you. Hold that knowledge. As soon as you recognize this, you will obtain liberation and enlightenment. This concept is so hard for us as humans to hold and to understand, because we have this judgment of good and bad. We have a judgment of what should be and what should not be, of what is right and what is wrong. And understanding that God is everything, even things that we don't like and we don't prefer and we hate and we think are immoral. God's teaching a lesson. Everything has a lesson in it. Everything is there for a resistance so that you can learn your strength and your divine light. Every darkness is there. As humans are gifted with a divine gift of free will. So not only are we part of this universe, part of God, part of the very essence of existence, but we also have free will. And so not only are we part of the essence, the seed of God, but when you think about it, there are so many probabilities. And we are one of those probabilities with our free will. So let's go back to the seed and talk about the seed analogy. The seed growing in the earth has so many different probabilities. And if you know anything about the mathematics behind probabilities and how to calculate probabilities, it gets real complicated real quick, because that seed has to have good soil, that seed has to have proper water, that seed has to have good sunlight. If it's in a too shady area, it probably won't grow very well. There are, that seed, if there's a drought, then that seed won't produce the plant with the fruit. If that seed gets yanked up and, put in a pot that's not properly drained, that seed won't grow. That seed won't grow if it's abused or yelled at. Plants, when people talk to their plants, there's lots of actual scientific proof that that affects the plant's growth as well. So there's all these external factors in how that seed has to have pretty good, situation around it in order to grow properly. And then as human beings, when we add in the factor of a probability of free will, oh my goodness, that just totally, completely makes it more complicated, because now in every second of every day, you have a choice to grow or not grow, to blossom or not blossom. And it's not just these external factors that are happening to you. Did you grow up in a house with love? Are you rich or are you poor? What country did you grow up in? Do you have a disability? Do you, all of these external factors that are happening to us. Now we have internal factors as well. You have choice. Many, many people come from horrible situations and from very difficult, strenuous external factors and still thrive and still do amazing, wonderful things. Read the book Hamilton if you'd like to know an example of how somebody pulled themselves up from very challenging situations, external factors, and still had the internal factor of, I'm going to do it. There are so many. We probably all know somebody. I have a friend who is, I completely admire because came from very difficult situations and is thriving in life, primarily because of her own internal gumption. I want to call it. Just she's gonna make it happen no matter what, and that is free will. So when we talk about probabilities and the possibilities of all of these things, not just the external, essence of it, but then all the factors, and then add into that the complication of free will, it gets to be a complicated algorithm that has so many different variables and so many different possibilities. And we get to how weathermen can never predict the weather because it's so complicated. That math to do the weather gets real tricky, and any one little tiny thing can shift an entire storm to do something that nobody ever thought it would do. And so the probabilities and possibilities are almost infinite. And you can think about the good and the bad of that situation that we all find ourselves in this world, being alive in this world. Endless possibilities, endless complications, endless possible outcomes, endless probabilities that things will go right or wrong. But on the flip side of that, it's infinite. There's so many infinite possibilities out there that can happen and that you can choose. You can use your free will to choose and layer on to all of these external factors that are happening around you. And it makes it such an exciting game. It turns life into almost a game of using all of this information, the good, the bad, the challenges, the blessings, our free will of choice, the choice factor into all of it. Makes it an amazing, amazing thing that God is in all of it. God is everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, the holy, and the divine. I was recently challenged. This past weekend, we had the big full moon, and it was November 16th, which is the night of Hecate, and she is the goddess of the underworld. And the goddess, any goddess or god of the underworld, is also the god of rebirth and transformation, and also the god of renewal. All of them. So it was the night of Hecate. Tuesday, the 19th, was the night that Pluto transitioned into Aquarius, basically the last planet to get into Aquarius, officially transitioning our planetary systems in astrology into the age of Aquarius, which is the long-storied golden age that almost, I think every tradition, every theological and historical culture has a tradition of the golden age that will come at this point in time. And so it's a big weekend. And this weekend I had a very challenging dream. And it was a very scary dream involving Hecate. And I didn't know I was going to be dreaming about her. It was just, I was aware that was the night of Hecate, but I didn't do anything to call in Hecate, but I had a dream about her. And it was a very scary dream. And I won't go into detail because it was horrifying. But basically, Satan was abusing Hecate. And I didn't even know that it was her in the dream. It was just something scary, and it was a three-headed lady that was getting brutalized by this very dark, scary man, and I was very frightened, and it was very scary and horrifyingly gross and disgusting. And I woke up the next morning just like, what the heck was that about? Why did I dream something so horrible and awful and terrible? Oh, I don't want that in my mind. And I just, all day long, it just like kept popping in my head. And I'm like, ew, get out of my head. I didn't want to think about it. And that night, as I was going to bed the next night, I realized I'm scared to go to sleep. I don't want to be having those dreams of the scary monster stuff. And I was very kind of getting a little bit anxious about going back to sleep. So I was burning some Palo Santo. And in the spiritual communities, when you burn an herb or a very fragrant essence, Palo Santo is a wood that is very fragrant. It's supposed to be a protection, basically scares off evil spirits. It was about burning some Palo Santo. And in my head, my higher self kind of made me stop and think, wait, I thought we weren't choosing fear. Because right now we're also in the choice point of choosing love or fear. And I have very definitively chosen in my heart that I choose love. I choose love over fear. I choose love always and always. So as I'm burning my Palo Santo, realizing that I'm frightened, my little higher self gave me a little thought of, wait, I thought we were choosing love always and always. Choose love always and always. Why am I fearful right now? There's nothing to be afraid of but fear itself. So here I am choosing fear, being afraid. What are you doing? And then I thought, well, Martha, what do we do with our fear? And we face our fear. We face our fear. Face it head on. And we observe, but don't absorb. Don't let that fear in your heart, don't let that fear get up in your head and start ruminating on it. We observe, we face it, we observe it, but we don't absorb it. We learn the lessons, because what are our demons and monsters here to do? Teach us lessons about our divinity and strength and how to shine our light. That's the whole purpose of darkness. To be the resistance, to teach us how to find our strength and shine our divine light. So what do? I know by studying Pema Chodron, what do you do when you're in a scary situation that you don't know how to love here? You call out to your guides and you pray to whoever it is that you pray to. I don't know how to love here. I don't know how to love in this situation. This is bad, horrible, scary, terrifying. I don't know how to love here. So I decided to go back, drop into my meditation, and I was just going to sit there and think about the horrible dream that I had had and find out what in the world that lesson could be, because I could not imagine. I didn't know what it was that I had seen. I didn't know why they were showing this to me. And I didn't know, like, why the three-headed lady. Like, none of it made any sense to me. So I decided I was going to drop in and take a look and learn the lesson, because I choose love. And I went into meditation. And when I drop into meditation, quite often with an intention, especially one like this, I dropped in immediately and dropped right back into the dream and was there witnessing this horrible, horrible brutalization of Hecate. And I observed and didn't absorb. I just observed what was going on. And I could see that the lady had 3 heads, and she had one of the heads was an old woman. It was all gray headed thing. The skin was gray. Everything was gray. and it was connected at the neck to another head that was like yellow, like shining yellow and yellow hair, and kind of a middle-aged head. And then it was connected at the neck to a green, kind of shining, lit up from the inside green, and she had curly hair. And I realized, oh, old woman, middle-aged woman, young woman, this is Hecate. I didn't even know what I was looking at. And I realized, I identified, oh, that's Hecate. And the little three heads are like, oh, make it stop. This is so gross. And they're telling me like, oh, this is disgusting. Please make it stop. And so I realized that the dark man figure, oh, that's Satan. I was able to identify the characters in this horror drama that was playing out in front of me. And then my higher self, the minute that I kind of knew who were the characters in this situation, I kind of rose into my higher self, my divine mother figure, higher self, God. And I was like, all right, well, we're stopping all this. Why are you showing this to me? What is the lesson here? What are you trying to teach me? Why are you doing this? And the Satan figure was like, well, she started saying this. I just went into full mom mode. And I was like, stop right there, mister. We do not treat our sister this way. I don't care what she said to you. You do not resort to violence. And I just went into full mom mode. And Hecate, you too. Stop antagonizing your brother. And they were like, well, we're not really brothers. Oh, we are all brothers and sisters in the eyes of the Lord. We do not treat ourselves this way. And then I got right up into Satan's face and was like, I am you and you are me, and we do not treat ourselves this way. And the whole drama stopped, and it was like a lesson in that. A lesson in that Nameste principle. I am you, you are me. We are all part of God. We are one. The good, the bad, the ugly, the holy, and the divine. This horrible thing that I was seeing in my dream, the lesson was I am divine light. I am powerful, strong. I am part of God. I'm divine light. B, we don't treat each other. Well, I don't treat myself that way. We're not going to do this to ourselves. I don't care who said what to who, and who that. Find a better way. Find a better way through your differences. Find a better way to resolve your issues. The lesson was so clear about divinity and strength and unity and unconditional love and the golden rule, and that all beings, Satan and Hecate included, are under the rule of, do you choose love or do you choose fear? And we don't treat each other that way. I choose love always, in all ways. Always, in all ways means anywhere, in any condition, in any circumstance. And then I dropped out of my little meditative trance, and I was like, oh, I did not know I had that in me. And I did not know I had all that ugliness in me, but also I did not know I had that strength. I'm a badass mama bitch. And I was like a disappointed mom. Like, I can't believe I'm having to come down here and talk to you like this and tell you not to hurt your sister. I was so disappointed in you. And I was like full on mom mode. And I was like, oh, the divinity, the strength, the courage to face the fear, to find the lesson, to understand the lesson. And it all goes back to that lesson in the Bardo of whatever you see, no matter how strange and terrifying, Remember above all that it comes from within you. Hold on to that knowledge, and as soon as you recognize that, I am you, you're me, you will obtain liberation. And that's the lesson in pantheism, that we are all, everything is everything. We are all God. The good, the bad, the ugly, the holy, and the divine. I keep saying it over and over again because that is the lesson. God is energy of the entire universe and beyond. And the darkness exists to show us our strength. It is the resistance needed to help us grow and find our strength and realize that we are divine light. I hope this lesson helped in understanding a little bit about my beliefs in pantheism, my beliefs in why I study death and dying in order to learn more about life and how to live a better life. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and hope to see you again in another episode of Tales of a Death Doula. Thank you so much. Give us a comment if you have anything to say about the topic today on pantheism. Thank you. Have a blessed day.